So, while I wouldn't consider myself an expert in economics, I do teach economics and I understand concepts having to do with economic play in society and sociology. And I think that this COVID-19 situation is going to cause a real problem when it comes to the wealth gap. I have not been very concerned about the wealth gap. I know it's a huge concern of a lot of people, especially people on the political left. The reason why I have not been is because while the wealth gap has been growing, all ships essentially have been rising. So while the wealthy have been growing, the bottom also has been coming up. It is far better to be poor in 2019 than it was in 2009. Access to things like Amazon, access to technology and things like that has been better. Now, it is never good to be poor, but it is better to be poor now than it was for sure 100 years ago. Now, this has been true, and that's why it hasn't been my concern. That being said, I don't know if it will be better to be poorer in 2021 than it was in 2019. I think being below the poverty line has been increasingly better. Even though the wealthy have been getting more wealth, the bottom has been rising as well. Not as fast, but it has been rising, and I don't know if that's going to be the case moving forward. Here's my reasons why. If you divide this up into lower class, middle class, and upper class, okay, the lower class will be hurt the most by this for a couple of reasons. One is they don't have access to resources and assets. So what that's going to cause is the people below the poverty line or around the poverty line are going to have to get whatever jobs they possibly can in order to survive. They don't have savings, they don't have assets. They're going to take risks, and those risks are going to lead to them getting sicker at a higher rate and dying at a higher rate. I've read statistics about how 70% of the people infected with COVID-19 or dying of COVID-19 in Chicago are Black. Okay, so this is going to be a problem for the lower class. Okay, those impoverished people. Okay, then there's the middle class. The middle class with some assets. Some access to resources and things like that, but because they are getting desperate, because so many people, 10 million people lost their jobs in the last 2 weeks or something like that, they are selling those assets. So liquidating their 401ks, selling whatever stocks they have, selling any kind of luxuries that they have accumulated are now being sold, and they're being bought by the upper class. Wealthy people now are buying. It's a sale. They're picking up tons of stock. They're picking up property. They're picking up luxuries. They're picking up cars that now you can get like a 0% APR for 8 years or something like that. So when all the dust settles from this, the ones who are able to shelter in place, stay away, buy up property, get everything at a discount, that is the wealthiest, and they will come out of this way better. The middle class, which was on its way up, had to sell their assets, and then therefore they're going to be stagnant or even drop down, and those at the bottom are going to be hit the hardest health-wise. They're going to be hit the hardest as far as their jobs and wealth accumulation and things like that. Now, some of them are in service jobs, delivering, working in produce, things like that. Some of them are able to hold up, but even working those jobs puts them at an extreme risk for the illness. So I have a concern that this is going to lead to a bigger wealth gap, and then with that bigger wealth gap, if it's already a major focus of especially the Democratic Party going into the 2020 election, what is this going to lead to? This is going to be an even bigger focus, and how that plays out is something that we have to be very aware of.